Let this be a reminder to you all that this organization will not tolerate failure.
The side of the federal building has been blown off. Jesse?
They believe they were part of a CIA project called MK Ultra.
Just like a segment of society that is not living in reality.
In a certain sense, we're kind of a little bit more Israel's vassal state.
There are police chiefs facilitating prostitution networks.
Do you understand? It's all in your head. It's your move.
What's up? Welcome to another morning dump. Where I'm joined by Austin today. It's Jose Galison here, Austin Picard over here of the No Way Jose podcast, and Austin of the Underclass podcast. So obviously this goes out to both of our platforms when they're both here. You guys know the deal. So for those people looking for the morning dump RSS feed, you're wrong. No, this goes out to both their things. So good morning, everybody. I see you all in the chat. Eddie, Tommy, hey, say what now? What's up, everybody? The early showers up here. Mike AMCA, what it do? Glad to be joined by all of y'all today. Man, your kitty crying in the background already. All right, nice. Mean Eugene, what it do? All right. Well, what's up, Austin? Didn't you just yesterday you were gonna show up, but I think you have some news for us. I mentioned it. I think what?
What with the as far as just on?
Oh, did you do another episode with Sam?
Yeah. I did another whatever this is, but it was hilarious because it was nearing Already Dead on Tuesday.
Yeah,
I got a text from Sam, and I was just like, "Fucking let's do it, man." But yeah, inevitably, I didn't get to bed till quite late that night. So yeah, I didn't make it, but it was a good conversation. Honestly, we had a lot of fun, but. Yeah, I think we finished streaming at like after midnight. So you know what I mean?
So that's 3:00 my time. Because we talked. I mentioned this in the show yesterday. I plugged that you do have that. So for those people who don't know, Austin's doing like a regular. Like it seems almost damn near. It seems weekly. I don't think it's like a set day or time or anything. I don't think it's just completely whenever Sam has a moment, and always seems to be extremely last minute.
Yeah, it seemed like it was settling on Thursdays, and then that pivoted this week, so which is totally fine. I'm open to it at any time, honestly. Yeah,
but yeah, it's a
100%.
paywalled show it's on your Patreon, and I think his as well or whatever. But either way, don't give the money to Austin, obviously.
Yeah, look me up, guys.
So yeah,
Well,
so
good morning though, brother.
Yeah. But him and you and Brad. So what is even the form? Are you guys just shooting the shit, or do you have like topics? Just like what? Or is it just they just kind of lob something up and they just let you talk for 2 hours? What's going on?
It's conversational for sure, but it is like, weaving through schizo narratives as well, which is kind of fun. But I did like I'll expose them to certain avenues that we've gone down recently as well, occasionally, just that are like piping hot in my mind. Like for example, that military operation, that Special Forces Russian military operation. I talked about for a few minutes, and so that was fun. But man, what else? Michael Aquino, for a bit, we had a brief conversation on that, which of course, Brad's connection to Georgia made me ask him if he had heard of the Atlanta child murders as well, obviously. And but yeah, it was of course a lot of kind of talking about the JFK files. Really was a huge portion of the conversation, which is hard not to kind of mention at this moment with everything streaming through the media cycle. I mean, but I will say, Oh, dude, I thought this was the funniest thing ever. Honestly, this tweet by um this tweet by Kurt Metzger. Did you see
No,
that?
I mean, I've seen some tweets from him. I
Yeah.
don't know which one you're referring to.
Oh,
But
it's
speaking
hilarious.
of that, I don't know if you saw Ben Shapiro's hot take on the JFK stuff recently. His point was that it's like so long ago kind of deal. Why should you care? Which obviously, given the
Oh my god,
I don't know.
that's
I mean,
hilarious.
I
But I
think
will say that the narrative taking the day, right? Which is obviously I do appreciate the acknowledgement of CIA involvement, but
mhm.
it seems like people are just running with this Israel killed JFK. Mossad was directly, like
I mean, we covered on the. I mean, I don't know. I will say, I haven't the digging I've done, which isn't very deep at all, is not. I haven't produced much that's really like super like oh my god. But we did cover some documents on the show yesterday when you weren't here, and like there was a couple things you're like oh fuck. Like there's that one. I forget the one we covered. I forget the names. The one Cuban
primary
ex.
motivation, though, only being a Mossad operation to assassinate the president. I think that's pretty laughable in my
I mean, for nuclear material, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I understand that,
Yeah.
but Israel has legitimately been manufactured to be a puppet entity of the West to begin
Yeah.
with, to achieve certain goals on the world stage and move the New World Order globalist framework into position. So I think it's a very convenient,
Yeah.
honestly, if you
I mean,
crucify Israel at every turn in this
yeah.
very moment, it's going to
I
be
will say
so
it's dubious.
conveniently.
It's dubious,
Yeah,
but I will
absolutely, man.
say, I mean, I did cover yesterday. I mean, I wish I could. Maybe someone could share it, or maybe we could. I'll have to. I mean, I don't have time to look it up and find the tweet, but there was or the document. I forget who the names were. It was the one Cuban exile. This one was pretty. But he did. There was a document that got unredacted, or released yesterday, I believe. Actually, I don't know if this was old or not. To be completely honest, obviously that was something we did talk about a little bit yesterday. Kind of the idea that all these documents are flying about, and it's like I don't even really know because not everyone, no one, who really is going to the source, like the actual like
Yeah.
.gov, and then comparing them against the old redacted. It's like people are just like seeing them on social media, and be like, oh, here's this, and so
Yeah.
it's like, what is like is are people just throwing old documents that we already knew about?
Oh,
But
absolutely, it's happening.
yeah, so
Yeah.
it's like I'm sure a lot of those, which to some extent actually I kind of spun that as a positive yesterday because it's like whatever, cool, you get like, all these like documents that
getting
are
out
already
there.
out there. They're like these crazy, like oh my god, did you hear about this? And if you just
100%.
like seed it in like this, like there's obviously this implication that it's like oh this is some new information. It's like
Yeah,
doesn't-
and
so it's like it
man,
might not be, but
e
whatever. It gets people
exactly.
like holy shit. Like,
Right.
yeah.
But don't get me wrong, man. This is not like some sort of blanket defense of Israel being involved in any way. Obviously, they were. There's very clearly,
Oh, I think I think
a
there's more to it than
collaboration.
that for sure.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I think it
it's
was
like
a mutual
on Metzger. He said
collaboration.
it takes a tribe yesterday. Is what he said.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
you have these elite oligarchs. I mean, that's really what it is, right? It's the aristocracy that is hidden from public view. They don't make the billionaires Forbes list. Like they don't make the top 100 list because they're too powerful when it comes down to power brokers in this current structured system. For generations, this has been how it's. So in my mind, of course. You have this mutual alignment between CIA and Israeli intelligence that have right that you know that was very much being set up as a result of the rat lines in the Gladio operation. And if look, man, how can you absorb Operation Paperclip and yet still have this mutual exclusive convenient agenda that solely relies on Israel's interests? What? This makes no sense. Why are we recruiting legitimate Nazis? And who's recruiting the Nazis? The Jewish mob? Are you fucking ridiculous? Like, what is this? Are you retarded? It's like, no, this makes no sense, man. So confirm Zionist shit. Wow, you motherfucker. How dare
Oh,
you
don't
guys.
look at Israel, guys.
Oh,
In all
man.
seriousness,
That's not at all what I'm
Oh,
saying.
that's
I'm
too
like-
easy, guys. Oh,
I'm like, it's just killing
look at all these Jew haters, me.
right. Hey, that's not what I'm fucking saying. Okay, that's hilarious stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
man.
mean,
Honestly,
I will say though
like,
that I wish I could. I swear it was one of the Cuban exiles that I guess had said something along the lines of like the quote from yesterday was something paraphrasing. It was like once we deal with Kennedy or fuck man, it really bugging me that I can't remember it. Somebody put it in the chat. Find the exact quote. Then because it is kind of wild. You're like, because he says it's something about their financial backing, and it's a Cuban exile talking about their financial backing, and I forget who they're referring to, how they used to, and they're like, now it's the Jews. He says something along the lines of now our new payment or payers are going to be the Jews. Essentially, is what he straight up says. And he goes, and then something about, after we deal with JFK, and he dies literally the next day. So you're like, oh, fuck. Yeah. So, like, after we deal with Kennedy, you're like, oh, shit. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. That's not, that's just one dude saying some shit. But, like, I mean, that's kind of on the same level of, like, when McVeigh said to his sister, like, yo, I'm actually a fucking, I went to some super serious, like, black ops crazy shit. And it's like, that's the only thing to prove it is him saying it. And that's kind of the same thing here. Some Cuban exile, he is a Cuban exile, said that. And you're like, okay, maybe he's lying. I don't fucking know. But, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I've not looked into it enough. I wouldn't be surprised if they had nothing to do with it, but I just thought that was a pretty wild fucking quote.
Yeah.
So.
And again, brother,
and maybe he lied. Maybe he's just saying shit that's out of context, or I don't know. There's all sorts of reasons.
That's not at all what I said. Like, I'm not at all saying they didn't play a prominent part in the assassination. I mean, that's.
Okay. Oh, I thought you were saying like, okay, well, all right. You're just saying they're not like okay.
Yeah, I'm just not. It's not that difficult. I don't understand why.
I was just confused. I thought you were
for you,
okay,
but I'm saying like I'm just really trying to clear this up because apparently it's being.
I don't like Jews, guys.
I mean, it's just so obvious that clearly Israel was involved.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that.
Okay, all right. I was confused. I was very like, what?
No.
There are definitely stuff that. Okay, all right.
It was a layered operation.
Gotcha. You
had mutual interest playing out in this assassination. Yep. That's all that I'm saying.
Yes,
so
gotcha.
Yeah. To say it's exclusively tied to the Jews.
Oh, you were saying people were saying it's like exclusively. Okay, I missed that. I thought you were saying it was like people are leaning heavy into it. Okay, I guess I didn't see that from. I didn't think of it that way with a lot of people. I didn't get the implication anyone casting Jewish or Israel aspersions was saying that it was like all them. But I mean, I'm sure there are some out there. I don't know.
I've just seen a lot of the narrative taking the day seemingly being right that this is prominently tied back to a Jewish plot.
And then that becomes the caricature that like the misfit patriots of the world go, oh, you gotta think the Jews did it all.
Exactly. And then you have it's just all too convenient for me. And again, nothing's ever that simple, right? Like it's when you're dealing with these elite, fraternal, powerful organizations, honestly, man, like they were all members of the Pilgrim Society, right? Like this is not just right. What else? Le Circle, Knights Templar, P2. Like what are we're joking ourselves, like we're kidding ourselves if we kind of like simplify it in those terms to such a kind of like naive, childish level. That's the only point I'm attempting to make is that there are clearly far more special interests playing into.
We get it. You love Jews, all right?
Jesus. Oh my
you don't have to keep explaining yourself.
I'm dying over here.
You guys aren't ready for this one though. JFK did.
Oh my god. I love
all right. I got you, Austin. There's a misunderstanding. I was like really confused. I was like, I thought we were both on board with we're not fans of the Jews here. What are we doing? I was very confused.
I love
guys. So just to be clear for any retards out there, this is very clearly jokes. I don't have an issue with Jews.
Dude, Namrock's meme where JFK's shooting himself in the back of the head. Was too funny, honestly. But my favorite part about all of this is this didn't at all change the conclusion of the CIA. Oswald clearly acted alone, and the CIA had no real involvement. That it's just the funniest thing ever, man. But anyway, at this point,
Did they
I'm a
already try
little-
to get to you? Did the small hats already try to get to you? Is that what happened?
Oh my
is
God.
Was this the past? You
Oh,
were
I'm
trying
so
to
sorry,
you were trying to
but,
pivot the narrative, and I just
these
didn't let it
covert
fly. I just
operations-
blocked it. Did I just block?
You
Did I?
son of a
You
bitch.
should just let me know if there's Zionist money being offered. I'll
dare
come in
you
on the
keep
cut
this
with you.
going.
Like you don't have to. I mean, like you don't have to do it all like all subterfuge like.
Wow, I'm so sorry for thinking in these layered terms where I'm considering a sophisticated operation. You son of a bitch.
I'm just fucking with you.
I know.
All right, that was my bad. It was a misunderstanding, but whatever. We got some LOLs.
Oh my god.
You ready to get into some? Are you ready for these laughs to go away and I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe
please,
cry a
let's
little. Yeah. Well, we got
hey,
what's
to
what's
prove everyone wrong,
okay.
let me start by saying no,
We're about
just-
to go hard on the Jews.
yeah, yeah, man. No, but I do think that it is worth mentioning, dude. Look at this. This is so funny. And this we talked about it just for a moment. But yeah, look at our boy here.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody needs to back off Netanyahu.
Yeah, dude. He's fighting against the deep state,
being
dog.
really mean.
Yeah.
This is just the funniest narrative to me.
Yeah.
So Netanyahu's English post on X was praised and reshared by Elon Musk. Israel's President Isaac Herzog swiftly responded, defending Israel's strong and independent judicial system. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu took to X on Wednesday to claim in English that strong right-wing leaders in the U.S. and Israel must stand against a leftist deep state that is weaponizing the justice system against them. So again, like, by the way, how convenient is that narrative, right, in regard to the big bad meddling FBI who won't allow the transparency to take place, right? And because they're dragging their feet with the document dumps. But look what you've done, dude. Let's just play.
Here's the tweet
But,
right here. I'm not muted, am I? All right, cool.
No, you're not.
I just thought it was funny. Here you go, 100, and then I put Elon Musk Israel's dick, and almost 500. I just posted last night, so not bad. All right, cool. We got we got some fellow people out there that seem to. All right. We should probably get to some of the sad shit. No more gigglings.
Yeah. That's
No
what I'm
more
saying,
fun.
but-
The Jew hating has begun.
My God, man. But it is at the very least worth mentioning that this is kind of a narrative that's being perpetuated and facilitated by these very usual suspects, right? So anyway, beyond that, what do you want to start with, brother? We have enough, honestly, Armageddon playing out
Yeah.
in Gaza.
Well, we should address why you hate the Jews now.
Oh wow! Now I'm back into the
Gotta
opposite.
respond
corner.
to one to the other. Oh no!
Yeah,
no!
yeah.
I'm just kidding. Obviously, I think he's joking. So, if not, whatever. Wrong channel for
No,
you.
PJR is my boy too.
Yeah, but we got antiwar.com here. Yeah, we got a lot going on. I feel like we probably could just start right here. This probably is, we don't have to do a full article. Here's Dave DeCamp, and this kind of covers multiple stories in a sense, because this kind of covers, we'll read it in a sec. I'm about to read it here in a second. This is Donald Trump's True Social thing. Dave DeCamp saying it's a nonsensical statement about this new war, but here you go. I'm going to go ahead and read it. Reports are coming in. This is Donald Trump, by the way, that while Iran has lessened its intensity on military equipment and general support to the Houthis, they are still sending large levels of supplies. Iran must stop the sending of these supplies immediately. Let the Houthis fight it out themselves. Either way, they lose, but this way they lose quickly. Tremendous damage has been inflicted upon the Houthi barbarians, and watch how it will get progressively worse. It's not even a fair fight and never will be. They will be completely annihilated. Which that is, I mean, if you understand this stuff going on over there, this does cover multiple of these stories. Essentially, it's like probably 3, 4, 5 of the different conflicts at once that we can kind of weave in and out just from this one statement he made here. So,
Absolutely. Did you see? I know I think I mentioned it on Tuesday. Just the, I can't even remember now, man. But it's the product of 3 shows in one day, I think, honestly. But
yeah.
I think it was I had mentioned it on Already Dead as well. The Tulsi Gabbard 180.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
right,
Did we
like,
mention that? I think I mentioned it in passing on Already Dead. We didn't really focus on it too much.
Dude.
Yeah.
There's a fucking side-by-side video of her from 2019, and she's legitimately in all these like certain terms in all these different interviews, even including even Rogan at one point. I can't remember when that
She's
interview
been on
took
Rogan a
place,
couple
but
times. Yeah.
yeah, she's been on a few times for sure. But
Mm.
yeah, U.S. U.S. supported Saudi genocide on Yemen. It's kind of the craziest video ever when you actually watch it, but it's perfect because it really shows a political chameleon at work, honestly, and how this game typically functions, status quo, par for the course in DC. Like these people, they're up for sale. Their souls are, you know what I mean?
Those Pajeets are some scammers, dude. Don't
Yeah.
forget, Tulsi's a Pajeet. She's like one of those.
Yeah.
She's a chameleon Pajeet, but she's a Pajeet.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and then she's also an attractive woman in politics who's very well spoken, and also a veteran, which makes it even more, just as far as like, and she's very appealing as far as like just I remember supporting her when she was a Democratic candidate, as far as just like hoping that she had some sort of success in order to kind of like push at least the concept of allowable opinion, as we discuss so often, in a better direction. And when she kind of kneecapped Kamala, obviously, and Kamala was the first to exit the primary process, which is still hilarious to me. But yeah, and yeah, people do eat up her veteran status, and that is because, but she's always been terrible on the terror wars. Right? Like, honestly, like she's been good on certain conflicts, but for the most part, she's really been kind of hawkish, in many ways.
Yeah,
But,
her whole thing has always been, "Oh, I'm against regime change, but I'm pro, but I'm against
targeting
terrorists."
Al-Qaeda.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it'll,
yeah.
so it'll be like it's this vague, "I'm against terrorists," so then it's like, but the problem with that is though, it's always these two things aren't really. The idea is that these are like two separate things. The problem is they're always thrown together. The narrative is always because of their doing terrorism, and also it's kind of like, in a certain sense, if it's like, okay, well, if you're open to the concept of your government involving themselves in terrorism, in what way it can, if you can use that narrative to do it to a terrorist group, why can't you do that to a country? I mean, yeah, I know we have these international this and that and this, but I mean, we break those all the time. So it's like, I mean, you just kind of had to find more precedent to do it. But at the same time, it's like, what difference is there between a terrorist group and a government, other than to what degree it's institutionalized, really? Right. Like, so, like, I mean, shit, look at our governments right now, lobbing fucking, bombs at civilians. Just fucking like, hey, are you guys ready to give in yet? No? All right, we'll kill some more innocent civilians. No? All right, some more innocent civilians. And just over and over and over and over again. Like, that's what we're doing. So, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, just to that point, I mean, how legitimate is government in the first place? I mean, look at the HTS takeover of the Syrian state, honestly, with Jelani. I mean, there you go.
Yeah.
You have, right?
Yeah,
It's the moderate rebels again, right?
Yeah.
It's hilarious to me.
Yeah, the difference is meaningless. Like, it's kind of like the idea we've talked about before, like with all the treaty stuff, about how like they don't want Hamas to take over, or no, they don't want the Palestinian Authority to take over, and that's why they boost Hamas. But it's like, what the fuck? What difference? Like, really? Like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously there's a difference, but I mean, the Palestinian Authority has been like, implicated in terrorism and shit like that in the past too, or had violent movements, I think, from my recollection. So it's like, it's just a matter of like how they perceive certain entities. And it's like, as we've seen with Jelani, it's like, you can be one day, oh, you're a terrorist group, and next day, oh, just kidding, you're a we're cool with you being a government, I guess, like,
Right,
I don't know.
right.
It's
Yes, dude.
Right.
Exactly. That's. Oh, hey, man.
fans of the Super
Appreciate
Jews.
That's so funny. I appreciate you. How do I say this name? Somnambulism.
Yeah, man, you struggle with it. Somnambulism schism.
Oh shit.
Yeah, baby,
I'm
somnambulism.
retarded.
Isn't that the thing? Like, isn't that
I'm
like
so tired, bro.
Isn't somnambulism like some essentially just like almost a different word for like hypnotism? Something to do with sleeping or something.
Yeah. You're totally
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely.
Yeah,
Well,
I think that's right. It's
I
like
appreciate you,
hypnotism,
my
but
friend.
specifically in regards to sleeping or something like that, I think, or something.
Oh, that's
I,
interesting.
I might be wrong. I'm
Implanting
just talking to my
subliminals
ass. I
in their
didn't Google
sleep,
that.
like that falls perfectly in line with that Dr. Robert Duncan and the EMF targeting of subliminals in your sleep. That's very interesting because apparently they can kind of administer kind of implementing these alters in that REM sleep state. It's very interesting, dude, when you actually read through some of the just some of the documentation of what they're capable of. But anyway, I know
It's a sleep disorder characterized by engaging in complex behaviors while still asleep. That's okay. For some reason, I thought it had something to do with it. I don't know. I
Wow.
probably heard it in regards to this sort of stuff before. But anyways, let's get to actual war news instead of talking about sleeping disorders.
Dude, hold on.
Oh, what do you got? What do you got?
It's 5 seconds of this, just because
Oh,
I
it's
think it's
sleepwalking.
hilarious.
That's what it is. That's, I guess, the.
Millions of Yemeni people who are on the brink of
Watch our girl.
death
Mhm.
from famine, disease, lack of access to food and water, basic medicine and healthcare. Thousands of Yemeni civilians have died in this genocidal war being waged by Saudi Arabia with support from the United States.
Absolutely outrageous that the United States has continued its support for years now for Saudi Arabia's genocidal war in Yemen that has killed thousands and thousands of innocent Yemeni people and caused mass starvation and suffering, cholera epidemic, the worst humanitarian crisis in the world in Yemen.
Congress finally passed legislation to end U.S. support for Saudi Arabia's genocidal war in Yemen. Now this bill is sitting on President Trump's desk,
Listen to this.
awaiting his signature or veto. Now, he's already threatened to veto this bill, which just reveals how he cares more about what Saudi Arabia wants than what the American people want. You saw Trump's rhetoric on the campaign trail about Saudi Arabia, against
I don't
Saudi
trust
Arabia, against United States
anybody.
support for Saudi Arabia, calling them out for what they are, and now refusing to end U.S. military support for this genocidal war in Yemen that Saudi Arabia is waging, that's created the worst humanitarian crisis of our generation, because he says, well, he doesn't want to risk a multi-billion-dollar arms deal with Saudi Arabia. So, you know, you can see, at least in that respect, what he's really motivated by. He
long
would
is this thing?
rather continue to support
I'll fast forward it.
defeating
Yeah.
it's an army that
Here,
actually
this- I mean,
it
directly
really drives the point
supports-
home, but you're like,
directly
okay, I
supports
get it.
terrorist groups like Al Qaeda.
Trump's
I know. Here we go.
leadership, going back through his
Here we go.
first term as president, he has been and remains very committed to combating and defeating the threat of Islamist terrorism that not only affects the United States, the American people, our own safety and security, but it is affecting so many people in different parts of the world. We can see different terrorist groups, the Houthis in Yemen being one of them, that President Trump has redesignated after President Biden took them off of the terrorist list, redesignated them appropriately as a terrorist organization, and taking action where the previous administration failed to.
Right.
The Houthis have been disrupting maritime trade and passage for
Well,
a
listen,
very
they weren't
long
a terrorist
time.
before. They weren't
And
designated.
no,
so.
no serious
whoops.
effort has been
Yeah.
taken to stop that disruption. Our country and other countries should not be in a position to have to make a decision to reroute commerce going through that area simply because of the Houthi threat that exists. So President Trump has taken decisive action for our own safety, security, and prosperity. And I know we'll look to other affected countries, as there are many who are impacted by this, to similarly take action.
Will you guys bomb them too, please?
The crazy thing is, like, it's sold as it's like this private, like it's like a security thing, like, and like to some extent, sort of, because it's like there is an argument to be the idea of like, hey, there's shipping lanes, like, hey, if I put my ship through here, like, I should be able to, go in a forward direction without my shit getting attacked by some fucking pirates or whatever, regardless of whatever the fuck's going on the world stage. If I'm some fucking, I don't know, some fucking petroleum, exporter, like, dude, what the fuck? I shouldn't have to worry about this shit. Like, this, I mean, I do agree that they shouldn't be doing that. I mean, we can kind of sympathize with the reasons for it, but I'm like, I don't think they should be doing that. You shouldn't be assaulting. Like, I don't know if it was like actually specifically, because these are like private entities, like likely that are like contracted out. Like, these aren't I mean, maybe there are. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I guess they did actually attack the USS whatever. But if they're attacking like government, I mean, whatever. It's a little bit. But so far as shipping lanes, like actual like shipping things, yeah, they shouldn't have to worry about being attacked. Like so far as like preventing goods from going into Israel, like I don't think it makes it okay just because it happened. But I understand their reasoning. But man, I totally had a fucking point. Where was I getting at? I totally slipped. Jesus Christ, I'm fucking retarded, man. I was cooking, and then I just completely dropped it. I do this a lot, man. I swear, I'm not high before anyone says it. I'm not stoned.
Oh my god,
fuck,
that's hilarious.
Where was I going with that? Damn it, I had a point. I had a really good point.
Sorry, brother.
Whatever. Let's get.
I'm sure it'll come back to you, but I just know that when you have this messaging like coming from the Trump administration of total annihilation, and I mean, my God, they're consistently talking about raining hell down on people and bringing hell to, like, what is this? Why? They're very obsessed with, bringing that imagery into the public consciousness. Like, I'm very interested in why that is. But it's kind of attaching it to this divine prophecy of some kind, in a way, subconsciously, if you aren't kind of paying attention to the verbal cues. I mean, it really does seem to be doing something of that nature, and that's by design. That's not by accident. These script writers are brilliant in how they cultivate this subliminal messaging and layered subplots within the context. So, yeah, man, I'm very concerned about the direction of these military conflicts on the world stage in every single geopolitical facet. I mean, of how it's kind of playing out.
I remember my point.
What's that?
I was just saying, God damn it. I remember, all right, the idea is that they shouldn't have to worry about being attacked. But if you're going to, and there is a genuine argument to be said, you should be able to defend these vessels. Like, I should be able to defend, if I'm a person going, my ship going through, I should be able to employ private security or whatever to protect me. And if a government wants to fill that role, okay, obviously I'm going to have a little bit of issues because it's like I know their track record and how this is probably going to go, but whatever, here we are, they're filling that role. If they're going to do that and theoretically abide by, I don't know, a proper, like, property rights or a proper way of engaging in society, then you would think the move would be to protect the entity and not just fucking lob bombs into residential areas. Like, what does that do? That does nothing. That does nothing except I said, I'm willing to kill innocent people. Stop doing that. You're no different than a person in a fucking bank with a bunch of hostages blowing away hostages. There's no fucking difference. Like none. Like you are the terrorist at that point. Like, okay, just because someone from that region did some shit you don't like doesn't mean you can just blow up a bunch of people around them. It's like it's not how civilized people act. Like, it's fucking like we ironically accuse the fucking Houthis about being barbarians, but we're doing the most fucking barbaric shit we possibly could to these people.
Yep. Yeah, and it's the consider why they're allegedly even targeting the shipping lanes to begin with. Because of this, because the blockade and starvation campaign of the hell plan for Gaza, where they cut off the electricity and the water supply. I mean, what do you think is happening here? It's ridiculous that, like, that tweet, right, that individual had, that I loved your response to it. What was it? It was like, honestly, it was one of the most shocking statements that I've seen. I'm hoping that.
Oh, you're talking about the one Abby Libby chick, the one who she's signed by Rumble. That's where.
Okay.
So that's why she kind of has a big. And I don't know.
It's a real person.
Yeah, I don't know. I see your takes. I almost never engage. I think that's the only time I really did, because it always just seems like low hanging bait. And even this one it was just so bad. What are you looking for? To something? I don't have it. But anyways,
right here, it says there are no civilians in Gaza. Hamas has drafted everyone, down to the newest babies, into the war effort, and they rejoice when the children they shove into the line of fire die, because it's their most powerful weapon against those they hate more than life and blood. Like, are you a psychopath?
Yeah, insane.
Like, what is happening here? How could you make a statement such as that in any sort of honest and objective way? Like, my God, you have to be a sociopath. You're a maniac.
Insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what's even fucking worse? Because I've seen she actually used to be a mutual for a while. Not that I ever really like. She followed me, and I just kind of whatever. I didn't really know much, but I just followed her back. She was a bigger account. I've seen some of her trash takes, so just like whatever, stupid woman. And this is the one that was like she stopped following me at some point. I don't know, maybe finally actually saw one of my takes. And so then I unfollowed her because I'm like, whatever, no hard feelings, whatever. If if you're not gonna follow me, like I usually won't follow, because like whatever, like then I like whatever. There's no point in like having this connection. So like no harm, no foul. And it was just this one that was like, this is so fucking reliant. I said something like peak genocidal language, but go off, I guess. Exactly. But yeah, she's. But anyways, what I was getting at, she's pregnant right now. I think she's something like very pregnant, like literally about to pop out a kid. And I don't think it's her first either. So it's pretty nuts. Like this is just kind of wild that a human being could behave that way. And then also it's like this dissociative stuff that we talk about all the time. Like the idea that you can separate those two things. So like, dude, you have, I don't know, like I see these people and I think of my children. Like I have a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old. Like, I don't know, like this, I don't know. Like I have this thing called humanity, and like, I don't know, I think of, and I guess they do the same thing where they go, well, what about October 7th? Like, yeah, I also don't, like, I'm not retarded. Like, I also don't want those people to die. Like, I don't, and if anything, like, there's a big part of me that's like, I want Israel to stop doing this stuff, because it's like, for one, it causes problems to people around them. I think it causes problems to people in their own country. Like, people that probably, a lot of people that, like, they're basically innocent. Obviously it's a little bit blurred lines, since like, I don't know, some of them come over there from here knowing the deal, like, oh, hell, some of them literally take Palestinian homes and go there. So it's like, I don't know, you've kind of implicated yourself a little bit in being shitty here. Right. So, but either way, it's a sliding scale, and there's a lot of people that are probably in their generations, are just normal people, are probably normalized to whatever the situation is. It's just like living kind of like we are, and are just like normal, innocent human beings, and I don't want anything to happen to them, like, at all. Like,
not at all.
Yeah.
And here's an example of what is being conducted. The barbaric war crimes on the dole, right, of the U.S. taxpayer dollar, financing this tragic. I mean, my God, look at this. A child in Gaza watched his mother burn alive, then he died as well, right? So here we go. On Tuesday night in the Karara area east of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza, brothers Muhammad and Ibrahim Hamidi decided to take their children and flee to a less dangerous location east of the city. The sound of heavy gunfire from tanks stationed near their home after a brutal night of nonstop shelling and bombardment pushed them to head toward the Mawasi area of Khan Yunis, the same coastal stretch of land that had served as a so-called safe zone throughout the war. The brothers arrived and set up their tents. In the middle of the night, Muhammad heard the sound of bombing. He emerged from his tent, hundreds of meters away from his brother Ibrahim's. He was rushing toward the sound of the bombs to help people who had been hit, a common sight in Gaza. But he didn't expect that the bomb tent would belong to his brother. I ran out, thinking the bombing might have targeted a family we know. When I arrived, I found my brother lying on the ground, covered in blood, and his wife holding their child, both of them on fire. This is Mohammed Hamidi told Mondo Weiss. My nephew was lying on the ground, injured in his head and back, and looking at his mother. She was engulfed in flames with his younger baby brother. Then my nephew turned his head toward his father, who was bleeding after the missile struck his head. With deep sadness, Muhammad says that in his final moments, his 3-year-old nephew watched his mother and brother burn. The child was helpless. When his mother was burned alive while cradling her 1-year-old son, she was also carrying a fetus in her womb. All 3 lives were snuffed out. So that is what is happening on a daily basis, brother. You know what I mean? Like, we don't even have to go through the rest, honestly.
Yeah.
But
I mean, here's one more though. I mean, just to add to it, 2/3 of the people killed in Gaza strikes were women and children. So yeah, that was the most recent ones, particularly, is what they're speaking of here. So, which I mean, yep, I guess I guess Hamas is just really, really hard up, and so now they're recruiting women and children. So that's where we're at, guys. That's where we're at. So, Yep, just bombing innocent people while they're laying in their fucking tents. So that's where we're going. Yeah, and then I guess one more kind of in this vein. Then we have fucking this fucking psychopath, Israel Katz, issuing a direct threat to the civilian population. So this is a message to the residents of Gaza. The first Sinwar destroyed Gaza, and the second Sinwar will bring its complete ruin. Soon the evacuation of the population from combat zones will resume, and what follows will be... Oh, sorry, I'm moving over to the... And what follows will be far more severe. You will pay the full price. Return the hostages and remove Hamas. The alternative is total devastation. So keep in mind the options being presented here. Literally, they said... Essentially, they said you will be forced to leave, and you must give up the hostages. So it's essentially leave, give us everything we want, or die. That's basically what it is, and that includes leaving. And keep in mind, this is to the civilians. This is my message. This even literally starts with it couldn't be any more clear. This is a message to the residents of Gaza.
Yep.
He's calling on them to essentially to throw off their oppressors, which is typically, not always. I mean, it's typically some sort of it's one of the many, Rolodex of cards of defending some sort of blockade or something. Justification is you guys need to overthrow. And it's like, you do realize you're impoverishing these people. For one, you're making it harder for them to do it. And the idea that while we're bombing the fuck out of them, they're going to fucking 1776. Can you imagine if we fucking if fucking that was happening while we were also hell was raining down upon us? Oh, do you think we would have done so well against the British? Do you really think we would have fucking okay? Yeah, that doesn't make any fucking sense. The idea that they're just gonna throw off the yoke of their oppressors because we're being shitty to them, because we are the final straw. We just really cranked up the shittiness. It's just that their leader wasn't shitty enough, and so we had to show them how shitty he is by being shittier, which makes no sense.
No.
So, I don't know. The idea that they're going to... For one, the idea they have any sort of ability to force Hamas to fucking give up hostages. Sure, if they all of a sudden just, connected into a hive mind and fucking, work together, sure. If they fucking ascended evolutionarily speaking, sure, they could do that. But there's no real, pragmatic way for these people to throw off them. This is just essentially, we're going to kill you all or give us what you want, and this is... So yeah, the ball is kind of in a sense in Hamas's court, and that they're saying, so I guess it is kind of what happens here, but I mean it's not on Hamas. You don't get to say I'm going to kill you all if you do this thing that it's really not even aside from the hostages, that's the only legitimate ask, and even then that's not really legitimate since there was already a prior agreement. I'm only meaning legitimate in a moral sense, and the idea of I don't know, you shouldn't be holding people hostages, but there's obviously a lot more at stake, a lot more going on here. In a conflict sense, that's their only leverage.
I love it. Was so ridiculous that Netanyahu in his statement saying that this entire military conflict is because of Hamas. It's everything that happens is Hamas is to blame, but then he even says human shields, right? And as we've discussed just recently, I mean, obviously, the human shield aspect of things, it's clearly been an established policy in regard to their military units, what they have actual terminology, where they utilize these Palestinians as human shields, which have replaced the dogs and the robots in their military units. And one last thing that I had to point out with this military conflict specifically, that kind of reinforces a lot of what we've been talking about, is this last part, because it drives home exactly what we were just discussing, which is apparently these latest Gaza airstrikes have resulted in the largest single-day child death toll in the past year, according to UNICEF. And it says basically these strikes, they hit all these makeshift shelters, as you mentioned, and right these tents with sleeping children and families, as we just described, those brothers. And so, yeah, the UN Children's Fund, UNICEF, chief denounced Israel's deadly airstrikes on Gaza on Tuesday, which killed more than 130 children, saying it was the largest single-day child death toll in the last year. Reports and images emerging from the Gaza Strip following today's attacks are beyond horrifying, Catherine Russell said in a statement.
Can I say real quick, like, what the fuck are these people even really supposed to do? I know the idea is like, from the Zionist perspective, is like, well, they should fucking go. And then, or the idea being, or they should fucking throw off the yoke of their oppressors. But we obviously just addressed that. That's fucking retarded. So what do they even do? If you were in that situation, what do you do? Like, you can try to leave, but where do you go? If you have a family, you up and take all of your belongings. Like, these people are getting jerked around. We covered one story a while ago, which I believe was the Jenin camp, which I think is in the West Bank. They were like essentially telling all these Israeli Gazans to go there and to essentially go to the West Bank and essentially to be safe, to get out of Gaza or whatever. And then there were stories where they're talking about, oh, we're gonna fucking let's send them to Jenin and we'll destroy them over there. And Jenin's completely destroyed now. Like, they've essentially forced the people. So they're just like they're just jerking these people all over the place. Bomb one area, these people move to survive, and then bomb another. And they're just like, what do you do when you're on the ground? I know they're like, oh, we send flyers and we do this, we do that. And be like, do you have any idea how fucking confusing this would be as a civilian, especially in an area they probably don't have many resources, probably struggle to even, a lot of times maintain communication? I mean, especially at this point in the infrastructure of this nation. Like, what are you supposed to do? Like, you're just fucked. I mean, like, you're really just kind of hoping that you're just luck up and you manage to position yourself in a place that's not going to be bombed.
Yeah, and the safe zones are they're always being bombed
them all the time. Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
fuck.
So it's like, what? It's just bizarre. It's I don't know. It's frustrating.
Very frustrating, man.
Yeah, but I guess last news in the foreign policy, we didn't address this yet. And this one's kind of big. Trump gave a 2-month deadline to do Iran. So with all this stuff going on with Iran, he's still kind of trying to get them to come do a deal. But the problem is, I mean, Iran's still being like, fuck you, like, because we're doing all of this. But now, and we've already made threats before. We made vague threats. Essentially, in this, let's see. I'll just read the whole thing real quick because it's not long. And you guys know I fast talk these, so slow it down if you don't like that. Put it on 0.5 speed. Axios reported on Wednesday that President Trump gave Iran a 2-month deadline to reach a deal on its civilian nuclear program in a letter he recently sent to Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Oh, God, I gotta sneeze. Maybe I won't read it so quick. Oh, went away. All right.
Man.
All right, the report, which cited 2 sources briefed on the letter, said it was unclear if the countdown to the deadline began when the letter was delivered or if it would start at the beginning of negotiations. But U.S.-Iran talks are unlikely, as Iranian leaders have rejected negotiating in response to President Trump's so-called maximum pressure campaign. Axios reporter Barak Ravid, a former IDF intelligence officer, wrote in his report that if Iran doesn't negotiate, the chances of U.S. or Israeli military action against Iran's nuclear facilities would dramatically increase. And that's in quotes, so I'm assuming the implication here is that supposed to be a quote from Trump. The news or somebody? I don't know. But I guess he's reporting on it. The news of Trump's deadline for Iran comes as the president is warning that he will blame Iran for attacks launched by the Houthis, even though it is widely believed the Yemeni group acts independently and wouldn't take orders from Tehran, a fact that's been acknowledged by U.S. officials. I do want to point out, in mid of this real quick, keep in mind how we just covered this. We just covered that one True Social thing he put out a while in there, and in there he addresses that. He doesn't address it specifically, but essentially that is what the context of that thing is. He's talking about the weapons being delivered to the Houthis, and he says that they're slowing down essentially, which is retarded because there's never been really anything to prove that they even do supply them with weapons. There might be a chance that they gave them like blueprints initially because I guess they have similar weapons or something. But they have their own means to produce them. They have their own weapons production capabilities there. They don't need Iran, so it's ridiculous for one. Like, even if they are getting it, they don't need Iran in this situation. So even then, the whole premise of his tweet is kind of retarded. The idea that if they stop, it'll make it quicker. But anyways, that aside, blame that does seem like you could also interpret that tweet or True Social thingy or whatever the fuck as a backing off of that message. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Because it kind of was like, oh, they slowed it down. So maybe that was him kind of like maybe providing a détente to Iran, or I don't know, or what, because he's still trying to get. But I don't know. We don't even know even if he does do this deal thing, like if they come to the table, how this is going to work. Are we looking at because they can play?
Khamenei said.
Khamenei rejected Trump's letter when Iran received it last week. Yeah, but I'm saying even if. Yeah, call it deception, because it to make it seem like the U.S. was a reasonable party and Iran was rejecting negotiations for no reason. But the thing I'm getting at is, even if they do come to the table, it's like, I mean, as we've kind of seen how negotiations go, we've covered a fuckload of negotiations in the past few months when it comes to like Israel and stuff. You can see how perceptions can be warped, especially if you're not following every little fucking in and out. So this is like, it is kind of almost like a perfect little shell game for them to play around with if they want, for like perception, if they are able to do it. And so them coming to the table for a deal, I do kind of lean towards that. I think Trump would like the idea of having an Iranian deal of his own, but I don't know what that would pertain of. And considering everything going on, it looks like they would really be trying to bully Iran into something really retarded.
100%.
I totally get where they're coming from. Like, why would I want to engage with something that's clearly being probably going to end up with multiple actors working against me throughout? Like, it's, Yep.
The Axios report on the same story said that Khamenei said he didn't support negotiations with the U.S., but several hours later, the Iranian mission to the UN issued a statement on X and didn't rule out negotiations between Iran and the U.S. over the nuclear program. So it's not, who knows, right? The art of the deal, as we're intended to believe. So, but yeah, it seems like these statements are kind of ridiculous, though, in regard to the Iranian nuclear weapons program, in my mind.
Yeah,
but
it's nonsensical. It's kind of always has been.
Absolutely.
Curtis here says, good morning. Watch you guys' TFH episode last night. Banger. Hell yeah, dude. Appreciate you popping in here. All right, let's get into less sad things, I guess. Although, I mean, I guess they're still kind of sad, but not as, this one's not too bad. This one, I don't have a ton on this. I just wanted to mention, just because it was like the timing of it. It dropped like literally basically the end of the episode yesterday. This stuff happened, and it seemed to be in our wheelhouse, and had a couple people commenting about it in the comments and on social media, telling me about it. So like, being like, oh, did you cover this? And it's like, it just ended streaming. So here we have SWAT responds to armed man at CIA headquarters. Police and SWAT are on the scene after, it was at 11:58, so literally as a.m., Eastern. So that was literally probably like as I was finishing the episode. Police and SWAT are on the scene after reports of a man with a gun near the entrance to CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia. This is from Insider Paper. But I guess they ended up getting him. But so I don't think we know much now, but it is interesting. Like, what the fuck? Who's trying to break into the CIA and who thought this was going to work out well for them?
For real bad.
So yeah, I don't know. One of their fucking programmed fucking people went nuts, I guess. So.
Either that.
But I don't have much on that. I just wanted to address it. That is a thing that happened. I guess we can watch this video. I don't know if this will give us anything. I haven't watched it yet, so we can.
Yeah, somebody read the JFK.
Welcome back. There's looks like activity. We don't have a lot of details of this. We're showing you a live shot of the headquarters of Central Intelligence in Langley, Virginia. That's in Northern Virginia. It looks like a police presence. There's some barricade up. I want to put that in the box. And as we know more here at Real America's Voice War Room, we will update you. But something quite odd, and we'll get up to date on what's happening. That's Langley right there.
All right. Well, yeah, there's nothing meaningful there. So I would assume that all we really know is they took the guy, and that's it for now. Yeah. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Austin. Otherwise, we can move on to the main story. So.
Not really. I am curious to know what this individual's background could potentially be, but beyond that.
Yeah. People out there, keep an eye out there for us. If you see anything meaningful on this, feel free to tag us in it. So, but yeah. Be our eyes and ears out there, baby. All right, let's get to the main story. Man, we spent like an hour just in foreign policy today. and I already said, like, being like, man, I knew we were going to spend like an hour on this. But let me go ahead and I'll just play the video. That'll be the intro into it. This is an excerpt from me and Austin's latest appearance on Tinfoil Hat. And then we're going to kind of dig into this a little bit. The information that I presented here, we'll dig into it a little bit. But let's go and play it. Dude, I got to tell you something I found out yesterday, Austin, and this ties in perfectly into this. I found out yesterday that, this ties into the whole Colts, MK Ultra connection here that I was kind of making. Jonestown, apparently the land upon which it was at in Guyana, literally the 2 years prior, literally right before they took over the land, like it was owned by the government, and it was being trained for it was used for Operation Shalom, where they took black Green Beret soldiers and trained them in what I don't know particularly. One of those individuals that was trained there within the 2 years prior to the Jonestown, debacle in Guyana on that very same land was Colton Westbrook, the spook that ended up being the person who was running at the Symbionese Liberation Army, that was known for Patty Hearst and all that. That he was being trained right before then, and then in MK Ultra Op, Jonestown goes off right then. I just was talking about false memory syndrome yesterday, and that was like, holy shit, no fucking way. Austin's gonna clean his pants.
Hold on.
Yeah,
you said a lot right there.
We threw a lot at you.
Guys,
Dude.
I do love it that he's like, what? He literally probably does mean what. Although I'm giving him shit. I think Sam knows a lot actually. He like
sure.
That's kind of almost a
he's
superpower.
Trying to slow us down because of what we were doing to the audience.
Exactly. He knows. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think I'm not trying to. I mean, I'm not trying to be a dick or suck off Sam here. But like that's kind of like he isn't like I'm not saying he's like top level researcher like a Jay Dyer or something like that. But like he like hides his power level. Like he's up there. Like he's not like on that level of there, but he's not far. He's got quite a bit of knowledge that just sits in there that sometimes you'll be like, holy shit, and you'll just be like blown away, like, oh crap, you know that? But he kind of puts on this like goofy like kind of air to where like, and I've kind of employed that a little bit in life to where like, kind of a goofball, and people don't really realize like, oh shit, this motherfucker knows some shit. So so like I don't know. I feel like there's gonna be one of these days
through real bombs, like know what I'm saying, like but and he packages it in a very palatable way for many people as well, which I think is super important and valuable. I'll check my email, bro. Sorry. But whoops. Oh shit, I'm trying to turn it off right at the same time you do. I'm there. My bad. But as you should start that thread because how frustrated I was remember when you called me, I think the next day, and I was like, damn it. Whenever you brought this up, I had a whole fucking point that I wanted to make I never inevitably ended up making, which is very brief and simple, and would have just reinforced exactly this point. Which,
is it really brief and simple, or are we gonna have 20 minutes?
It actually is. No, it actually is, dude. Because I
just have to double check because you say that a lot and it's not.
No, but I think that like understanding the environment at the People's Agricultural Project, the People's Temple Agricultural Project in Guyana, that remote location in the jungles of Guyana.
People will understand that by the end of this thread too. So
exactly.
Go on.
It is very obviously a CIA retained black site from prior to this, but very interesting because they were described, right? A lot of the so of course you have the Red Brigade, the Praetorian Guard of Jim Jones, elite Praetorian Guard basically, but you have they were described as, of course, brandishing assault rifles, but by witnesses as glassy-eyed and mechanically walking zombies devoid of any emotion, and that was the same description of Larry Layton, right? That this was 120 brainwashed assassins essentially out from Jonestown awaiting the trigger word to pick up their hit. And what's crazier to me was that, of course, when you have William Holsinger, Congressman Leo Ryan's aide, right? Who Congressman Leo Ryan, obviously he goes down with the Concerned Relatives Committee, right? Or I think that's what they were called. But the group of concerned relatives that had formed an organization to attempt to bring some real accountability to what was being done to their loved ones and relatives and family members down in this remote location, because they were receiving very different reports whenever they were still getting reports from what was happening down there. And so anyway, Holsinger, he receives remember this in the series that we did, when William Holsinger, he gets a fucking call right before the news went public. The wife of Ryan's aide, William Holsinger's at their house, and she receives 3 threatening phone calls where this caller allegedly says, tell your husband that his meal ticket just had his brains blown out. Oof. And he better be careful. Mm-hmm. And Leo Ryan's aide, William Holsinger, of course, we already know, I've said this many times, that he feared the CIA might have been running a covert operation there so sinister it would have shocked even hardened CIA watchdogs. But here's the interesting thing, is that obviously we already know the penal colony, the professor at UC Berkeley, the paper that describes MK Ultra going underground in '73 after the CIA told Congress that they were ceasing the operation, but that was never the case. So anyway, this is apparently what I find most interesting, and the point I'm trying to make is that we have all the medical facility right at the location, and you have all these psychoactive mind control drugs found on the site, where you have sodium pentothal, diazepam, thorazine, and Larry Layton, who's the assassin, right? Who was described as basically in a hypnotic trance. He's Jones' lieutenant, who becomes the only person charged in any of the killings.
Not to be Dick Austin, but did you read the thread? Because you're rehashing like a lot, like a decent amount of it.
Am I fucking it up? Dude, I'm
no,
sorry.
I'm just saying we're going to go over a lot of this.
Oh shit. Well, my bad. I didn't read through it, honestly.
Okay, it goes into the Laytons and all that. It doesn't focus as much.
Son of a bitch. Well,
you're good. Let's go ahead and go through it real quick, because you'll be able to, I think it'll be better. You'll be able to give that commentary and give these contexts as we go through it. So,
okay, hell yeah.
So all right, Jonestown was far from. Here's our buddy Jacob J. Rise to Liberty. You've gone on his show quite frequently.
I need to talk to him about Jonestown at some point. That would be fun. We should have him on. Honestly, I'm already dead at a certain point.
Yeah, we should actually. Yeah, we should definitely get Jacob on one of these days. I already did actually agree with that. But I've been I actually have him on coming on tonight. We're doing another part of our false memory syndrome series. Been kind of knocking out a bunch of those recently. Can kind of been going down that rabbit hole a little bit. People have been seeming to like it, so feel free to join. We'll be recording that tonight at 9:30 if you want to hang out in the Patreon with us. But that'll drop weeks from now if you want to be a poor.
One of those limitless threads, right? That just ties into so many different
everything.
scandals.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we could do probably 30 parts in false because it just keeps circling back and because really all we're doing is just analyzing all the spooks on the board.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're all involved in so many goddamn things.
Everything.
But anyways, Jonestown was far from our boy Jacob J. Rise to Liberty. That's his podcast and his Jonestown was far from religious cult fanaticism resulting in mass murder. Deeper investigation revealed the clear continuation of MK Ultra, Operation Gladio, Operation Condor, and Operation Phoenix. And he doesn't really get as much in the Operation Chaos side that was implied in that because that's the Colton Westbrook connection. But either way, it's still if anything, it kind of solidifies these ties in my opinion because you're like, oh shit, and you're like, oh, this is even Chaos is basically just Gladio.
Exactly.
But so paramilitary action, drug and gun running, state terrorism, mind control. So here we go. Early 1962, Jim Jones was in Brazil, where he remained until mid 1964. By the way, for those of you who want to dig into this, me and Austin have done a whole Jonestown series where we've covered a lot of this. I mean, there's been new information we found since then we don't remember, but obviously, if you really want to dig, that'll be a good place to do it. But early 1962, Jim Jones in Brazil. He remained there till mid 1964. He helped with preparations for the 1964 CIA-backed coup d'etat Brazilian President João Goulart. This is known as Operation Brother Sam. So I mean, I don't know how he's proving this to be the case, but I mean, to some extent, take our word for it, or look into it yourself. You can go check out the thread. He's exposed in print as a CIA operative by a local newspaper, which accused him of filtering money to military papers to finance the 1964 coup. There you go. There's a source, actually. I take it back. I am going to show you a source. Brazil wasn't alone. The CIA was also laying coup groundwork in Guyana. Now we're getting to it, baby. A National Security Archive article reveals 250,000. Keep in mind, this is what, the 70s? I'm always bad with dates, right? Austin, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So 64, 60, is it 60s? No, that was something he did in 64. Anyways.
Leading up, but it basically, when the fuck was Jonestown? I'm trying to remember the exact date because I think it was later than people realize, honestly.
Yeah. Either way, a National Security Archive article reveals 250,000 was the price for a CIA coup in Guyana, ensuring the rise of Forbes Burnham. Once installed, the U.S. could make moves in Guyana. Is that who this was, the Forbes Burnham here?
1978 was when the mass death happened. So, yeah.
That was later than I thought. I thought it was early 70s, but okay. Yeah, you are right. There's later than I thought. Anyway, so it looked like they set up a coup, which kind of got their person in there, and so now we have our person in Guyana, and this kind of obviously enables things to move along more smoothly.
Yep.
Due to new restrictions placed on the CIA, they needed a solution. Jonestown location near Port Kaituma was strategically valuable as a U.S. intelligence foothold for covert operations. Venezuela is...
Port Cayuma.
Oh, Cayuma?
Yeah, Cayuma, yeah.
Oh, didn't know it's a weird thing to do with a T, but okay. Or did he spell it wrong?
No, it's spelled right. It's Port Cayuma though. Just from hearing like audible verbal reports of what happened in Guyana, I always try and get the terminology as accurate as possible when I do the solo episodes. You know what I mean? Especially when I'm like trying to use German terminology or like Italian,
and you can tell it's not. I don't mean this in any insulting way. You can tell it's not your forte. I've always been like a good speller and like grammar and stuff. So like, I don't know. Yes,
I do my best, honestly.
Yeah. No, it's okay. Hey, whatever. I mean, you obviously you account for it since it's like
I always try and go and see how it's effectively pronounced. You know what I mean? Like attempt to do it as accurate as possible. But yeah, when you're sitting there speaking like, I don't know, the different versions of French and all these different geological areas. Like it's kind of hilarious. Like the Belgian episode was kind of strange with that as well, right? But anyway, go ahead, bud.
Real quick, I do want to address my buddy Tyler here. Says, "What is your opinion on Daryl Cooper's series on Jonestown?" I still have not gotten around to it.
Or something.
Yeah, I still haven't gotten around to it. I don't know if you have, Austin.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's great. I don't know. I mean, he does good work.
It just spends most of the time. It really doesn't kind of dig in as much to the
CIA connections.
Yeah, as much as I would have liked. Like it seems far more to like deal with the ideological framework of like how Jim Jones was. It's a little bit giving Jim Jones too much credit in my mind. But that's just my opinion. I'll have to go back and re-listen. It's been years, so
yeah. Like and he's great. I've checked. The only thing I've ever watched of Daryl Cooper's stuff, I've heard he does great work. And I will say his Israel series, I forget what it was called. His most recent, one of more recent ones. I forget why I can't think. Coming to Israel, or no, that's not it. That's Sheldon Richman's
worked
book.
With the DIA or something.
I don't know.
Daryl Cooper was employed as at the Defense Intelligence Agency or something. I don't know. Yeah, no, I've heard him talk about it. He's like open about it. Yeah,
I thought you were like asking if you like you're kind of like I don't know.
I'm trying to remember which agency it was, but he definitely has experience in that field, which is why he has kind of expertise in explaining certain things in certain ways, which is very valuable.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's always been interesting to me.
Yeah. But anyways, back to the Port Cayuma. Venezuela is significant during the Cold War era due to oil reserves and shifting political alliances. I mentioned this in part 2 of my False Memory Syndrome Foundation thread. Before Jonestown was established, the project was called the Shalom Project or Shalom Cooperative. Okay, so this is, initially when they kind of took over that port, this was called, the whole thing was the Shalom Project, Shalom Cooperative. Let me see. I want to look more into that, but that doesn't tell us anything.
The methods that Jim Jones used in his cult, the People's Temple, are definitely classical mind control techniques. And according to a book by Michael Myers, which is called Was Jonestown a CIA Medical Experiment, his documentation leads him to conclude that actually Jonestown was run by the CIA. Prior to being Jonestown in the deep jungles of British Guyana, that site was actually under control of what was called the Shalom Project. This was a CIA program for training black mercenaries for warfare in Angola.
There you go, for warfare in Angola. So they trained mercenaries for warfare in Angola before this. That was what was going on. That's what Colton Westbrook was doing there.
Well, that makes sense why the United Rebels were involved in, or at least...
and why they needed black Green Berets specifically. Yeah.
100%.
Because they're probably infiltrating, African groups. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep. So I wonder what Colton Westbrook was doing. He probably has a lot of off-book shit. Because in Africa, it's kind of like that's dark there. No one knows. There's like no media there. Like you do whatever the fuck you want for the most part. It's wild. That's a wild, 100%. Wild west for fucking feds.
Oh, dude, listen to this, man. Oh my God. So yeah, it does. I'm gonna look into this a little bit more. Go ahead, keep going.
Okay. All right, next. I'm just kind of looking through these documents. He said, so the Shalom Project it was in the same encampment between 1975 and 1978. that was known as Jonestown. So theirs was 73 to 75 was the Shalom Project going on, that same exact encampment, and then it was from 75 to 78, literally the same year. Some 73 to 75, and then 75 to 78 is when it becomes Jonestown. So it literally is like CIA is like, here you go. If you were to believe this was a cult, that like essentially the government / CIA / whatever the fuck's going on here, this whole conglomeration of, they gave up this super profitable port like area to this guy. Like, here you go, you can have it. So that makes no fucking sense. The Shalom Project is neither Jewish nor peaceful. CIA supplied the project with 200 black ex-Green Beret Special Forces experts. The Green Berets were the elite of the Vietnam conflict, well-trained in all aspects of guerrilla warfare. So this is why, obviously Colton Westbrook was an Operation Phoenix guy. So obviously I would assume like for this, they were probably pulling straight from Phoenix fuckers, basically. So since the 1960s, their number had been reduced by over 10,000. And many found readjusting to civilian life difficult. They returned from Vietnam to find the same discriminatory practices in hiring as had forced them to join the military in the first place. Only now they were further shunned by potential employers for their part in a war for which most Americans felt ashamed. To these unemployable veterans, the CIA offered a profitable solution. They could be highly paid mercenaries or advisors who trained other mercenaries. These experts in weapons, demolition, communications, medicine, and intelligence were placed in the overseas security staff of major U.S. corporations and in guerrilla warfare training camps, such as the one headed by Phil Blakey in Jonestown.
There
Bam.
you go. Yep.
Bam!
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially when you understand like the connection to the father, right? Who Dr. Lawrence Layton, who man, both of his kids are directly involved in this. It's just like the most ridiculous thing,
Yep.
and especially considering
We'll
that
get to
this
that.
man, is involved in mind control projects, coordinating with the U.S. Army's top chemical warfare specialist, which happened to be Dr. Lawrence Layton, which is the most ridiculous connection.
Fear and Loathing in
on-
Palestine. Sorry, Tyler shared that and reminded me. But go on. Sorry, that was the name of the series that what's his face did.
Fear and Loathing in the New Jerusalem. I think. Is
In
what
New
it was.
Jerusalem, not Palestine.
Yeah.
New Jerusalem. There you go.
Yeah.
You're correct. Yep.
But anyway, go ahead with what you got there, brother.
In the mid-1970s, mercenaries were heading for Angola, a CIA-backed conflict under Henry Kissinger's directive. This 1974 declassified State Department document acknowledges the existence of Project Shalom or the Shalom Cooperative. So they admitted it in this State Department document. Just see. Okay, all right, I'm not. There we go. They say straight up Shalom Cooperative right here. Foreigners and so some sort of document. This 1974 telegram from the U.S. Embassy in Caracas, which housed a CIA office to the Secretary of State, acknowledges a couple things. There are 2 agricultural missions, quote unquote, staffed by Americans. There are paramilitary forces in the area. This Guyanese paramilitary corps was likely the Guyana National Service, a force created by UN recommendations that not only trained soldiers but also served as a front for covert CIA-backed activities. After the massacre, a U.S. Customs interim report was found dated August 26, 1977. It was regarding an investigation into the possible illegal export of up to 170 guns from California to Guyana. CIA agent Frank Turple, a notorious arms agent and covert operator, admitted to supplying arms and training resources to Jonestown during its early development. His testimony confirmed what many suspected. Jonestown was never just a commune, it was a CIA training ground. The official Joint Chiefs of Staff comms log shows a report. The Jonestown suicides at 3:29 a.m. on Sunday, November 18th on a CIA radio station. In other words, the CIA reported from Jonestown at 3:29 a.m. No one else was supposedly in the area. The only known functioning radio in the area belonged to Richard Dwyer, which we're going to go into. He's almost certainly a Fed as well. But anyways, the only people in the area were CIA and I guess this is where we talked about. You know what? I bet you we've talked about before. I wonder if that group we just talked about, that CIA mercenary group that were former Green Berets, if those were the Green Berets we talked about in our series, if we just got it wrong or something. I don't know. You'd probably know it better than I would. Or if it was an actual Green Beret unit, or if it was former Green Berets in some sort of mercenary group of some sort.
Right.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
No. Yeah, absolutely, and that's why I think the Green Berets were called in to effectively clean up the operation once it was Yeah.
Yeah, because you have the Green Berets showing up. We have the CIA being the first to report on it, like, and they're and like, and, yeah. So like,
oh yeah,
these
dude,
people are Johnny on the spot. Like, what the fuck's going on?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently, in October 1961, October 21st, the Guyana Graphic published a photo of Jim Jones and his family over the headline "Church Blamed in Red's Rise." So again, you have this kind of key Gladio component in the destabilization of the local government, basically. And Jones was quoted giving anti-communist speeches in which he blamed the affluent Guyanese clergy for bleeding the wealth from the people, which made communism appear attractive to them. Very strange for someone like Jim. The article served to help attract the anti-communist faction to a new hero, Jim Jones, whose assignment was to organize and aid their cause at the time. So he proceeds to recruit and train a group of black Guyanese rowdies who were to incite race riots and labor strikes intended to cripple Jagan's government, Hagen. I don't know how the hell you pronounce it, but that's very interesting to me because it looks like obviously I knew that they were playing a role on the local scene to some extent, but I was not entirely certain of as to what level they were truly kind of implicated. But Jones had an immediate supervisor in the coup, apparently, which was a CIA agent named Richard Welch. And so, yeah, apparently Jones distributed the money as he saw fit to finance the planned civil disturbance. He told his Indianapolis congregation that his purpose in South America was to feed the poor while he's basically staging a coup. It's hilarious. So, the CIA station chief in Greece was Richard Welch, who was allegedly Jones's immediate supervisor in this coup d'etat. And Welch introduced Jones to the CIA's candidate Forbes Burnham, right upon his arrival in Georgetown. So there you go. That's when, in February '62, Jones rebels began their reign of terror by inciting race riots and labor strikes. Does that not sound like exactly the same?
Tale as old as time.
Yeah. Holy shit.
Tale as old as time.
They burned down cinemas and restaurants owned by East Indians and attacked pro-Jagan politicians. So he was then forced to declare a state of emergency, Jagan. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, driving me crazy, and call in British troops to quell the disturbance, which marked the beginning of the end of his administration. So this entire thing was staged, obviously.
It makes me wonder, considering obviously we're going to get into this in a minute, but we know that his core guard was like all these essentially white mercenaries, but we just talked about how literally in the same exact region we had black mercenaries that were training to go to Angola for like essentially it was specific they needed black and they're going to an area with black people, so the implication would be that they need to fit in, likely some sort of infiltrate type operation. For those who, we've talked about in Guyana, the people, like, as we just mentioned, there was like a hierarchy. You had Jim Jones, and then you had his like guard, I forget what the group's called, and then you had, so they're all, the Red Brigades, which was just all white people, white mercenaries, probably, likely CIA, Green Berets, whatever. Exactly. And as I just mentioned, there was a, black undercover secret, and then the lowest rung would be the people of the temple or whatever the fuck. And they were mostly minorities, all, like mostly blacks. It just kind of dawned on me: would it really be that crazy if they if they use a few of those people from there, and so then they also have people infiltrating the group? You know what I mean? At the lower level. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, dude. I know William Holsinger explicitly stated and referred to the strange racial dynamic that was playing out, and even specifically,
which you see all the time in MK Ultra. We're no lefties like crying fucking racial justice, blah blah blah. But it's like, you do look, and it is like those are the groups that get exploited, especially during that time period, and like that's kind of what's going on here. And I think as we go more through this thread, it gets more and more obvious, kind of how fucked up it is and how much these people are being exploited. I mean, I don't know, especially, but I guess let's keep going. Here's back on Richard Dwyer. He's a deputy chief of mission at the U.S. Embassy who is suspected of being a CIA agent. He had accompanied Leo Ryan for his 2-day visit to the compound. In Jones's tape, he can be heard amid wailing and screams from his followers to take their lives, saying, "Get Dwyer out of here before something happens to him." And then it says, when asked whether he was a CIA agent, Dwyer responded, "I can neither confirm nor deny." So I know you've covered Dwyer a lot. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but
Oh yeah, Richard Dwyer is he was one of the smoking guns for me whenever if you remember whenever we discussed in the series, it was Dan Mitrione, these suspicious passports, and Richard Dwyer and his CIA background. And it was really because obviously he was appointed to protect Leo Ryan by design. That was, I think they lured Congressman Leo Ryan down there specifically because if you look at what a thorn in the side of the CIA he truly was at the time, he's just showing up in Langley like, show me the documents. Like that's who he was. And he was like an investigative congressman, like infiltrating in a covert operation, infiltrating like private prisons to see about and he was investigating MK Ultra at the facility where they housed Donald Cinque DeFries and Charles Manson. And he's asking about these MK Ultra documents, and he's saying they're, confirm or deny, and they refuse to go on the record with this investigative congressman who that was his area as well, which is why the concerned relatives, sought out his support. And so, yeah, with this dude, Richard Dwyer, he's obviously, this man is, as you said, liaison, considered the deputy chief of mission at the American Embassy in Georgetown, and happened to be the American Embassy official. Yes, so this man, he's, if you remember the tape that says "Get Dwyer out of here," you can hear Jim Jones say, right, and this is as Dwyer had returned, right, to the People's Temple Agricultural Project from the massacre that had just taken place at the airstrip. So he himself had already come back from what had taken place with Congressman Leo Ryan down at Port Cayuma. And Richard Dwyer, CIA agent, who happened to be identified in the 1968 edition of Who's Who in the CIA. Even longtime member of the People's Temple, Carolyn Layton, wrote a letter to her parents alluding to the assumption by the temple's leadership that whenever they were talking to Dwyer, Burke, McCoy, or any of a number of others, they were talking with the CIA. Engage their comments accordingly. In the archives at, I believe it's San Diego State University, you have Jim Hogan, who's brilliant, man. Jim Hogan is one of the best authors. Dwyer, he describes Dwyer's background is that of a sheep-dipped CIA officer whose State Department cover had long ago worn thin. After graduating from Princeton in 1957, he'd gone to work at the State Department's Bureau of Intelligence and Research until February 1959. In the years that followed, he was posted to Damascus from 1960 to 1963, Cairo from 1963 to 1966, Washington 1966 to 1968, and Sofia, Bulgaria from 1970 to 1972. He returns home in 1972, subsequently shifted to Chad until 1977, and then he's brought home again to become part of the State Department's Inspection Corps. In this role, he travels throughout much of Western South America, Bolivia, Peru, Chile, Ecuador. Finally, on April 14th, 1978, he arrives in Georgetown, Guyana, to take up his responsibilities as Deputy Chief of Mission. So this is like... hey, this operation's about to go live. We got to clean up this op, right?
Yep.
Dwyer, get the fuck to Guyana, right? So Dwyer, deep cover CIA officer, my God, man. Dr. Julius Madar, an East German author with ties to the Stasi intelligence service, alleged as much in his book that he'd written 10 years prior to Jonestown, Who's Who in the CIA, that, Joseph Holsinger, by the way, Leo Ryan's best friend and chief of staff, echoes this charge of him being deep cover CIA sheep dipped. And so you have him citing congressional sources as well. The same allegation being made by the defense attorney for Larry Layton, who was convicted for his role in the assassination of Congressman Leo Ryan. And unfortunately, Justice Department attorneys representing Dwyer and the judge who presided over the Layton case refused to let Layton's defense attorney question Dwyer about his work for the CIA. very convenient.
Yep.
And the last note on Dwyer
Mhm.
is at least worthy of note is the information that this CIA officer was at the scene of the Port Cayuma ambush was given to Joe Holsinger by a Washington colleague when Holsinger regards who he regards as an unimpeachable source. And he says, despite the efforts of Layton's defense attorney, this evidence was not admitted in court. So it's clear that the CIA man was present at both the ambush and the massacre.
Yeah,
and
and
the only only other thing that obviously Dan Mitrione and the suspicious passports, but the thing that I found that I was intending to mention when I first went on a rant at the very beginning of this was that obviously Larry Layton, right, the Jones lieutenant who became the only person charged in the killings, this man was later described as sinking into a post-hypnotic trance, and that Layton's own father called him a robot.
Yep.
Right? Dr. Lawrence Layton. So Layton's brother-in-law, George Philip Blakey, the man who arranged the lease on Jonestown with the Guyanese government on Jones' behalf, was reportedly a mercenary for the CIA-backed United Rebels in Angola.
As we were just talking, and they were training people to go to Angola at the Operation Shalom, specifically black. So I don't know if he was black, but either way, I don't know. Maybe they made some exceptions. I don't fucking know.
Our series, dude.
Yeah.
I legitimately said in our series, the site of Jonestown itself was even suspected of being an already established site, potentially used as a training ground for Angolan rebels during the Angolan Civil War.
Yep. And it connected even more. And we brought on the Westbrook thing. I didn't realize how important that was until that bit popped up. Yep. We have Mike Mortal here saying, this is crazy. I just finished Daryl Cooper's series about Jones, and I thought to myself, yeah, this is an intelligence op. And this morning y'all are going over this. Hell yeah, dude. Perfect timing. Yeah.
Hilarious.
I mean, I guess that kind of answered my question from earlier, although I guess you did too. So I guess he really doesn't focus on that. All right, let's keep going on the Laytons because we're getting into that. Researcher Michael Myers spent 6 years writing his book, Was Jonestown a CIA medical experiment, which concludes that Dr. Layton was directly involved in MKUltra and that Jonestown was as much his project as it was Jim Jones. Yep. Dr. Lawrence Layton, a chemical warfare specialist, was appointed Chief of Chemical and Biological Warfare Research at Dugway Proving Ground in Utah. He also developed German chemical weapons and overseeing many tests. He also worked on the problem of weather and chemical weapons and undertook tests on nerve gases and toxic agents and on bombings by chemically armed jet planes.
Langley Porter Neuropsychiatric Institute in San Francisco was also the location where Jim Jones had brought many People's Temple members for a rehabilitation program. These motherfuckers were mind controlled, man. Like, that's what happened. Yep. You know, this is really amazing. Honestly, they took him to a remote location and they started conducting some of the most sadistic mind control techniques, I think, available to them at the time.
Which, exactly. Jonestown provided ideal isolation for medical experiments. The medical staff under Dr. Lawrence Schacht, the guy on staff at Jonestown. So once again, we're seeing this is less and less looking like a cult. I mean, don't get me wrong, a cult is a group of people, and in a group of people, you're going to have people with certain skills. But it is odd, the smattering of skills that are thrown together here, and in what magical way it kind of fell together. The medical staff under Dr. Lawrence Schacht, known for painful suturing without anesthetics, administered drugs and kept daily records, which all disappeared after the massacre. The medical staff numbered 70. Most were psychiatrists, psychologists, behavioral scientists, therapists, and pharmacologists. Is this looking like some cult that's come together? I mean, I guess, sure, theoretically, if you get enough people, I guess you would have that. But I don't know. It just seems 70. I don't know. All right. I guess we'll keep going. When the Jonestown Medical Clinic was found after the massacre, they found enough drugs to supply the average U.S. city for more than a year. What's strange
is they could dose the whole capital of Georgetown. You know,
what's strange is that what they held in stock largely was hypnotic drugs used for mind control. So, Thorazine, Quaaludes, Vistarol, which is for anxiety, is anxiety medication. Nolodar, a sleeping aid. You have Valium, morphine, Demerol, which is a narcotic. Talwin, which is kind of similar to Demerol, and then Seconal, a sedative and hypnotic. These are the kind of medications they're taking. These are the kind of medications they're giving these people. And now let's get back to Dr. Larry Layton. who, he wasn't technically, there, but like, let's get into how he does connect into this. He was the father of 2 members of the temple. He had 2 of his kids were in the temple. Deborah, who you see here with a incredibly 90s photo, looks pretty dope, honestly. That is a
by the way, you already know my theory was that she was a key, as far as she was utilized in really providing the precedent for Congressman Leo Ryan's trip to Guyana. So she allegedly gets back to the States. Oh my God, she blows the whistle. Oh, it looks like there's about to be a mass suicide. Right. So she already plants it in the conscious mind of the vast majority of the public before it ever even fucking happens.
And we're going to get a little bit into the relationship between the father and daughter. And honestly, this kind of makes me think of like almost Monarch type vibes for those who have ever gone down that rabbit hole.
I got to go get some coffee.
You're good. You go ahead and grab some coffee. I'll keep reading. I mean, this is all stuff you know. So Deborah managed the finances for the temple, and then Larry became one of Jones' top lieutenants. So, although I think, if I remember correctly, the dad was named Lawrence as well. Yep, so Lawrence, Larry, whatever. I'm guessing the son was a junior. So whatever. We got Dr. Lawrence, then we have Larry, who's the son. Larry became one of the top lieutenants. Larry's letters about his dad read, Dr. Layton treated me cruelty. Threatened to put me in a mental institution. My dad used to try to hypnotize me. They had all kinds of tests out there that killed sheep. Dad once told me he could be tried as a war criminal. So these are just things that the good doctor we told you about just casually told his son that then got repeated. We can see here. So he did research on missile propellants, developing solid-state fuels for missiles. It was a secret work. The place was a government munitions factory. Dr. Layton treated me cruelly as a child. He was mean and would always yell at me. I remember on one occasion he threatened to put me in a mental institution. There was an old Quaker fellow who lives in Maryland by the name of Simon who was a very kind person who was opposing the war. He complained to my mother about how insensitive my father treated me. My father used to try to hypnotize me. He was mean to my mother and was condescending and hostile to her most of the time. He was chief of chemical warfare for the U.S. Army at Dugway Proving Grounds, Toole, Utah. He started his career in an area of wound healing, but later developed ways of causing wounds. His work here was all top secret. Although I was young, I do have memories of seeing a bomb test that my dad was involved in as I laid on the desert watching. Dr. Layton's job was to develop ways to kill people. At this U.S. Army Proving Ground, they had all kinds of tests out there that killed sheep and other animals. When I was in Berkeley later on in years, my dad once told me he could be tried as a war criminal for some of the things he had done. He was very cruel to animals. He hates animals. He has wire around his yard in Berkeley to shock animals if they come around his yard. He wanted to borrow.
According to her?
This is according to the son, Larry.
Okay, Larry. I was wondering because it sounds much more plausible that it would be Larry that would be making those statements.
Yeah, so this is Larry saying all this. And so the last little paragraph there is like just silly. But yeah, no, this is kind of a little bit eye-opening. And, this is... This is the dad. I mean, this guy developing ways to kill people, and it looks like there's connections to this guy and this temple, as we're pointing out here. So, if anything, this almost makes it even worse than I thought it was after reading that excerpt, because they're like, this guy's job literally was to develop ways to kill people. Is there a possibility that not only, I mean, there could have been, obviously, like, why wouldn't you, if this was some sort of testing ground, why wouldn't you do all sorts of things as opposed to just things like hypnotize?
Exhaust every avenue of research and then...
kind of like what's the Japanese one, the camp whatever, where they did the awful fucking, you know what I'm talking about? Like that's kind of what I'm implying here. Like
right. That's what it became. I mean, you saw that they had they put them in stress positions. They had children in like they had them in pits that they had dug into the ground where they were like had them like. Yeah, it was honestly insane. They were hanging by this like very it was legitimately torture. Right, is the craziest thing of all time. But once you look into all of that and you realize that same neuropsychiatric institute also apparently was being used by DARPA and the CIA as programming site for Project MK Ultra, and that is legitimately the same site, that neuropsychiatric institute, Langley Porter, that Congressman Leo Ryan had just recently probed and called and said, hey, provide me all the documents of your connection to Project MK Ultra.
He was shaking up the wrong fucking tree or the right tree, I guess, depending on how you look at it. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Larry Layton, the son, was a conscientious objector of the Vietnam War and medical technician at Mendocino State Hospital. He became involved in Jonestown after participation in the drug culture and protest movement in Berkeley. How convenient.
Oh my God.
Larry ended up
Phoenix.
leading.
Yeah.
Larry ended up leading the death squad that killed Leo Ryan and 4 other persons. Go ahead.
Look at Larry.
Mhm.
Holy
Over
shit.
here?
Yeah, that's the
Or I
dude
thought
right
you,
there.
I don't know if you were
It's so
showing something
ridiculous
because
to
I'm
me.
looking at this tab.
Yeah.
Deborah Blayton managed the temple's money, laundering to Swiss and offshore bank accounts. She also appropriated the money to purchase the drugs found and arms, the drugs found and the arms for her husband's project. So she was married to Philip Blakey, as you mentioned earlier. So now it even this is so like so many connections that are like an unbelievable level of connections that circle around this.
Yep.
So she was married to British-born temple member Philip Blakey. George Philip Blakey became the initial made the initial $650,000 deposit for purchase of the land that became Jonestown. According to researcher Michael Myers, Blakey ran a special forces training camp for mercenaries heading to Angola. Blakey, one of Jones' top lieutenants, managed the whole program like a business. So now this, as you know, once again going back to this connection, this Angola, this like Project Shalom. I mean, obviously, we don't have confirmation if he's running a special forces training camp for mercenaries heading to Angola. That sounds like describing exactly what we were talking about going like Shalom.
Yeah.
So did this guy just not even leave his station? Like he literally just like, oh, you're doing this now? Like, you know, because we pointed out, was it 73 to 75? It was the CIA essentially running the show there. And then supposedly 75 to 78, then the Guyana shit. It's like, was this dude here from 73 to 78? You know what I mean? Like,
oh, yeah.
That's kind of what it looks like. And this is him right here with a young African child, which makes us even more fucking like, what in the flying fuck is going on here? Young shirtless African child. What awful, depraved things were they fucking doing? You know?
Absolutely, brother.
Ugh. Like this reminds me of that. This makes me, knowing the context here, it makes me think of that one photo that always gets shared around with that like incredibly creepy face dude that's clearly on some sort of island. These 2 like, you know, indigenous people, they're like crying kids. You know, you ever seen that photo that people always share? I don't know who that is, but it's like, this reminds me of that kind of like that vibe.
Right.
You're like, I mean, he's just obviously like, you know, if you have a different context, you might think otherwise. But knowing what we know, like, yo, what the fuck is going on here?
Oh, for sure.
And this dude right here is some dude who ran a fucking, you know, a training camp for mercenaries going to Angola. Like, come on, dude, what the fuck?
Ridiculous, man.
He's also the dude to put up the money. So, you know, he's supposedly and he like as I'm implying, there's a chance he maybe was there beforehand, and he's the one who put up the money. So it's like, you know what I mean? To be like on the land, and then you put, it's almost like it's just fake money throwing up. You know, it's like you paid yourself type deals. Recruits were trained in jungle warfare and deployed to conflict zones, bypassing congressional oversight. Classic Gladio workaround. Under his command, there were 100 to 200 mercenaries. Some were on the People's Temple security staff. So those mercenaries you trained before, some of them came over with him to the temple. So even more like, oh, okay, what the fuck, dude? Camp's infrastructure, sophisticated weapons, explosives, and 2 distinct sites, a primitive jungle outpost, and a main cleared camp, mirrors Gladio's isolated training model. So, like, yeah, this is like set up as a paramilitary camp. In the 1980s, a suit was filed against the CIA by surviving victims of Jim Jones. In it, they alleged that Jim Jones was a CIA agent and had been one since 1963. 20 months after Leo Ryan's murder, his 5 children filed a lawsuit against the CIA. It was mysteriously dismissed. And that brings us to the end. Hopefully now it can be seen that Jonestown is a clear continuation of MK Ultra, Operation Gladio, Operation Condor, and Operation Phoenix. So yeah, quite the dig. So yeah, I think we're going to cut down this. I think we're going to cut the episode down a little bit. I had a couple other stories we talked about at the beginning. I do just want to do the Peter Thiel story, and then we'll bounce unless you have something else. So just for those, just so I don't know if you're trying to get out of here anytime soon. I'm just letting you know.
Yeah, no, that sounds good to me, honestly, because we could discuss Jonestown forever. Honestly, there's so much more. I'm sitting here just reading about it as we're talking as well. But yeah, man, it is so very clear and obvious that this was a CIA. This was obviously a CIA operation. And when you have L. Fletcher Prouty making the connection with the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the body bags, right, being prepared beforehand, it was already very obviously in play as far as the cleanup for this operation was concerned. And I think it was largely due to Congressman Leo Ryan, right? He was blowing it up, but the CIA wasn't going to let him get out alive. I know that much, right? And so that
Mhm.
seems to have been what happened. And when you have Bo Gritz, who I always refer to in this context, because if you remember, every time this comes up due to his direct connection to the Green Berets, right? Like he's a Green Beret commanding officer, and former U.S. Army Special Forces officer, and worked in the office of the Secretary of Defense as well. But following his formal retirement, which was at the rank of lieutenant colonel, he trained the Afghan Mujahideen in America on behalf of the government. Isn't that hilarious? So, domestic black sites once again were training up Afghan Mujahideen in 1979. In an interview in regard to his books, Called to Serve and A Nation Betrayed in 95, he says a few weeks ago there was a report out of Montreal about people winning cases against the CIA because they were utterly abused in the mental health clinic that was set up by the CIA in Canada. That all came down under Alan Dulles, who tried to make a Manchurian candidate. I think the Jonestown incident was an extension of In Search of the Manchurian Candidate. I think those people were conditioned to act in certain ways and would have probably just moved from Montreal to Guyana in this case. You look at Jim Jones' background carefully, he had a lot of intelligence contacts there for doing exactly what he did. The interviewer goes, "Did it go haywire?" And Bo Gritz says, "Of course it went haywire. God be praised. Just like the Montreal Health Institute, it self-destructs because it's not good in its essence. Most of these folks involved were street people, so they didn't have people who knew where they were or were concerned about their well-being. It escalated once they killed Congressman Leo Ryan. Basically, they had no other way to go, so they just tried to self-destruct the whole mission. And that means the death of hundreds of people. As I point out in the book,
Mhm.
the medical examiner there made some startling statements, Dr. Leslie Mutu, obviously, and we wouldn't even allow the bodies to be properly examined when they were brought back to the East Coast and turned in. So obviously it was a cover-up. Jonestown, I think, was an extension of MK Ultra from the CIA, and there are probably other experiments going on. Alan Dulles is dead, but that doesn't mean that the idea of controlling people's minds and behavior is dead. And I still think that is a goal. And then he later on he makes the claim that obviously, you know, there was a call in to this Green Beret Special Forces unit that essentially comes in on helicopters and are ordered to strafe the remaining survivors from before they even land. So one of the Green Berets remained anonymous. I forget what his name was. I'll pull it up at some point. I'll refer back to it at a certain point, but basically he claims that that he was whenever they arrived on this helicopter, that there were members of the People's Temple who were like reaching out, calling for help, and they all just were executed on the spot before the helicopter even landed, which I just found very, very interesting. But not at all surprising when it
Yep.
comes down to the cleanup crew, right?
Mhm.
So anyway, but the fact that you did have anonymous whistleblowers and Green Beret members who later on blew the whistle as well, who claimed that this was by design a cleanup operation when they were sent there. Yeah, it goes to say. I mean, it goes without saying, honestly. Hey,
Here's our
man,
buddy
what's up,
Jacob.
Jacob?
Said, glad you guys like it. There was a ton of shit that I didn't include. So many documents and twists and turns. Yeah, it's wild.
Absolutely, brother.
Yeah, I'm particularly interested in that Westbrook connection. So, if, like, I don't know.
That's the one I already
yeah.
have pulled up. I'm looking
Yeah.
into that as we speak, honestly, because I think it's probably one of the most important aspects of this.
Like if we can connect those two strongly, and especially, and then also the Angola training, because as we've referred to him as Green Berets, like which is it? I've heard Green Beret units, I've heard CIA, but the CIA thing that was going on there was pulled from Green Berets that were. So it's like it just seems also connected, but it's like I don't know, they could be different things, or it could easily be a Green Beret unit and also a separate like CIA unit, but they also could be working in hand. You know what I mean? There could be multiple units.
Oh, here we
So
go.
that's how they
Listen to
work.
this.
They are usually like do work together like that. You know? But go
Yeah,
ahead.
this is the note to reinforce what I just said. So, one of the Green Berets in charge of the operation, this is Charles Huff, okay? So, because the first to arrive, remember, were around 100 Guyanese troops, allegedly. ordered to search the jungle for survivors. Soon over 300 U.S. Green Berets were already on the site. So as well as almost 600 of the best trained commandos from the British Black Watch Special Forces Regiment, who had coincidentally been running training exercises in the area nearby. And one of these Green Berets, Charles Huff, who was in charge of the operation at Jonestown, says 16 highly trained soldiers who participated in and witnessed the operation all died, and all of their deaths were designated suicide. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, okay.
One of the Green Berets who allegedly landed there shortly after the Jonestown massacre said in an interview while requesting to remain anonymous by using the false name Scott Hooker. He explains that this name would identify him to the other soldiers who were there. He in detail claimed that the Green Berets were under instructions to kill the survivors. This mysterious Green Beret going by the name Scott Hooker also said in the interview that as their helicopter was landing, survivors were waving to be rescued. The Green Berets were ordered to shoot them dead. Scott described the blood misting into a red cloud around the first man he shot with his automatic weapon upon exiting the helicopter. He emphasized that the Green Berets were under orders to turn over the dead bodies in search of explosives before the CIA medical team took over. So, anyway, that's really the only noteworthy point.
Yeah, a lot of shit here, dude. Whew, man. All right, let's get into this last story, and then we'll let you guys go. We're long on the tooth a little bit today, but hey, that's the nature of me in an Austin episode. But here we go. Last story. We'll have to change the title too for those watching live. The last little one won't get made. Maybe we'll get to it tomorrow or something. Although I won't be here tomorrow. Austin will be running the show tomorrow. Maybe this weekend, or Austin will cover it tomorrow. But with that, let's get into the last episode. Billionaire Peter Thiel's former FBI handler arrested at JFK Airport. This is from the homie Ken Silva. It says an FBI agent who was once the handler for tech billionaire Peter Thiel and who later criticized the Bureau for allegedly suppressing investigations into ties between Rudy Giuliani and Russian intelligence agents or assets was arrested this week on charges of illegally disclosing classified information, according to court records filed Tuesday. Jonathan Buma, who has worked for the FBI for 15 years, allegedly printed copy of confidential FBI documents and messages and later shared the material with associates as part of a draft of a book he was writing on his time in the Bureau. He was arrested Monday at a departure gate at JFK International Airport in New York as he was waiting to board an international flight, court records said. Okay. An attorney representing Buma did not immediately return an emailed request for comment. Last year, Headline USA obtained a whistleblower disclosure Buma made to the DOJ Inspector General, but didn't report on it at the time because the reporter was pursuing other projects, including an ongoing investigation into the Trump assassination attempts. Given that Buma's disclosure directly addresses the allegations against him, Headline USA is publishing the disclosure here for the first time. So this is disclosure from Buma. I guess we kind of got to read this, don't we? A little bit long. Actually, I'm going to read the article. That's long as fuck. Let's see. I'm assuming he's going to give a breakdown. If you want to check it out, check out the article, and then he gives a link there, and you can read the entire thing. It's like 4 pages long. But in the disclosure, we're going to trust Ken here. Buma mentions that the FBI seized a draft of his personal memoir when agents raided his home in November 2023. He acknowledged that the draft contained sensitive info, but said he believed he was operating within the bounds of the law. During the raid of my home, the agents claimed they were looking for classified materials, but only seized information I had provided to Congress pursuant to the protections guaranteed under the whistleblower statute. No incriminating evidence was found from the search, but they took every electronic device from my home. He said in his February 2024 disclosure to DOJ/OIG, which this reporter obtained months later. Ironically, the only sensitive information found at my home in the search was documentation directly related to my own suppressed whistleblower complaint, which I had previously provided to the Congressional Oversight Committee investigators, which was labeled in the receipt of items seized as classified information, as well as a draft of a personal memoir I am writing. I fully believe my actions were in alignment with the spirit of the whistleblower statute, Buma's statement said. Buma has raised issues with how the FBI was handling certain investigations through statements to news media, various government agencies, and Congress, according to the filing. Before his ouster from the FBI, He was a handling agent for Thiel, a billionaire GOP donor and military contractor. Thiel, who co-funded PayPal and Palantir Technologies, was an early Trump supporter for his 2016 campaign and later bankrolled Vice President J.D. Vance's run for Senate. Thiel was outed as an FBI informant in an article by Business Insider in October 2023, a month before the FBI raided Booma's home. Thiel began providing information as a confidential human source, or CHS, to Jonathan Booma, an LA-based FBI agent who specializes in investigating political corruption and foreign influence campaigns, Business Insider reported at the time. Citing a fellow FBI informant and former Thiel associate Charles Johnson, the Business Insider article said Thiel started working with the feds in the summer of 2021. But yeah, it's Johnson, the man who outed Thiel as a Fed, told Business Insider that he's the informant codenamed Genius in Booma's July 2023 whistleblower statement. This statement does not mention Thiel, but Business Insider independently confirmed that Thiel was indeed a registered FBI confidential human source, or CHS. So that is so okay. Funny. So cool. With all this, it proves that yes, Thiel was an informant of some sort. And
these guys are gay, aren't they? All of them.
Oh my God, yeah, these are all doing gay shit. Yeah, like, and then a month later, he's like, "No, you can't tell him about the beads. You can't tell him. No."
This is fucking killing me.
Yeah,
it really does look like just some sort of homosexual reality television we're witnessing right here, dude.
Yeah. It's like, you can't tell. I'm gonna, you can't tell about our relationship. But yeah, that's quite the story. So I guess I just more or less, it's interesting, the timing. I don't know what more there is to say. And then also, I just more the idea that, just kind of let people know in the world that, yo, dog, this guy was literally is a Fed asset of some sort. So
he has 2 FBI code names.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Johnson said that the other one was philosopher. So
what a faggot
and philosopher.
God, he's so fucking full of himself.
Couldn't be gayer.
Yeah. Well, with that, Austin, I don't know. I think we hit it all. I mean, is there anything else you want to cover? Otherwise, we can get out of here, bud.
Yeah, we could cover. Honestly, we have too much to cover, so we might as well just leave.
Yeah, for real. And you'll be in here tomorrow at 10 a.m., I believe, unless something barring. But I won't be, so you guys get Austin tomorrow. You get to hang out with your other daddy. So it's the weekend. It's his time with you. So,
hell yeah.
Well, it's not the weekend. It's Friday, but you know what I mean. The expression is getting at. But Austin, you want to let people know where they can find you at, and we'll get going, buddy.
All right, man. Everybody, if you have the means to, and any of my work has resonated with you, the best place to support me is definitely patreon.com/theunderclasspodcast. And then just follow the podcast. If whichever episodes you appreciate the subject matter and the material covered and within, just share it, man. It really helps for sure. Just to kind of engage with the content in that way as well. So, and then beyond that, like I said, episode 6 of whatever this is just dropped yesterday. So check that out as well. Yeah, nothing but love for everybody, as always. You guys are my people. Jose, you're my brother.
Love you too, dude. With that, maybe one of these days, if it isn't fucking 4 in the goddamn morning, I'll join one of you.
Yeah, I know, right?
Because even that's one of those ones that, even if he was while I would do it, that's I don't want to do it that bad.
That's the tough one. I don't know, fucking Brad. I know Sam and I we joined early one day, and he's like, Brad keeps vampire hours or something. I don't know how
he's. Yeah, I couldn't do that. I don't know. I think isn't he just I don't know. I don't know his personal life, if he's a single guy or what. Because I think if I was single, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it helps out all the kids and everything, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't keep those type of hours. I don't know. I'm a normal human being. But with that, guys, if you if you want to support this show, I do want to let you guys know. I mean, I've been kind of failing to remind you guys. We have merch up on not already dead, but on toplobster.com now. You got to go to Already Dead though. So go to the brands, go to Already Dead, and that's where you'll get our stuff. You can see here Already Dead shirts with our new logo we worked on recently.
I gotta get one.
Oh yeah, and then there's a retro one. And there's Operation Gladio shirts, and they have hats too. I keep meaning to get one. I need to buy some. You'll be seeing some of this merch on me sometime soon. I got to buy some. I just haven't got around to it.
Even that white tee looks legit.
Yeah,
I like
right.
that a
They
lot,
already
yeah.
did. Yeah, and then the Gladio, then the hat. I really dig the hat, the Gladio hat. That's my favorite. And then
cool.
obviously we have the classic Yiki and Trying to Do ones. Those are back up. People have been asking for them for a while. So if you want a Yiki didn't kill himself shirt or a kind of Trying to Do didn't kill himself shirt, they are both here and they're both back up and ready to go. So jump on it. And if you wanted to keep it here, then jump on it. Otherwise, because if he doesn't make any sales, you'll probably take him down after a while if he's not making many sales. So. Because he does like to, I don't know, release. He kind of goes with releases. He doesn't keep stuff up all the time. If it's not selling, he'll take it down, put new stuff up. So, hey, that's on you guys. If you want to keep it, I don't want to hear the where is it at. So there you go. Your Helper Crow says I'm getting a shirt. But also, if you do want to support the show, also if you can do that. If you want another product out of your support and helps the show, you also can. At least it'll be more my show. I mean, because it's it's my deal with Nado. You can also do Nado Shave Co. You can use Jose at checkout for 10% off. That's a single blade razor that I promote on this show frequently. Highly recommend it. It's much better than the multi-blade cartridge thing. It's like, the single blade gives you a much cleaner shave and it's much better for your skin. It's a lot cheaper as well. It's like $75 for the entire year, and that's for the first year. It's after that it's cheaper. Even the first year though, it's cheaper than the alternative, which is multi-blade bullshit. So yeah, use Jose at checkout for 10% off at NadoShaveCo.com. Let me know I sent you. Also, if you want to give, did I say like, share, subscribe? Yeah, do all that. And leave a 5-star review as well. But if you really, really want to support the show, cash is king, baby. Patreon.com/NoWayJose2020. That's where you can support me. I really appreciate it. The lowest level is $2. It gives you early access to my paywalled episodes where I'm doing 1 to 2 of those a week. And I'm trying to up the amount behind the paywall. We're shooting for like 4-ish behind the paywall at any given time. And so, usually stuff will be paywalled weeks out. So there's going to be a lot behind the paywall going forward. Also, you can get an ad-free RSS feed there, and then also on top of all that, you can be a talking head on me and Austin's Already Dead show, which is on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, or I guess 12:30 if you're a psycho that lives in Cali. But it is the right time. Yeah, that's right. Yep, 12 or 12:30 there. But anyways, you can pop in there. You can be a talking head like me and Austin are right now, and hang out with us in the second half. That's where we give out a StreamYard link every week. Austin does that on his Patreon as well. But also, I want to give a shout out to the highest level of my Patreon. Those are my sponsors. I give them a shout out every episode. My co-host in Tower Gang at Tower Gang Toad, at AbrogateDees, at ZOVRACK, at _Infinite Zeal, Tim Tuttle, at John Klebel, the homie. Will Bell has a delicious blueberry rabbit eye wine. Then big fan of the show, Torn May. You can follow, and then also at INWARD Lover. Guys, make sure to follow me and Austin both on social media, because that's the best place to tag us if you want us to bring up content to cover on the show. We're pretty responsive. I'd say most of the time you guys tag us and stuff, I bring it up. But with that, guys, we are out of here. Love you all. Deuces. See you tomorrow. Jump in for Austin's stream, and then I should be back over the weekend. Love you all. Bye-bye. Deuces.